Collected Essays of Valerie Lynn Stevens. Tempus et Aestu, Time and Tide. Time weighs so heavily upon the mortal human soul, cannot be transcended. Ah, but this is just it. It need not be transcended, merely dwelt fully within, as this concentration of mindfulness is transcendence reached in and of itself. For the act of choosing to be fully conscious in a world of such horror is perhaps the most tragically unrecognized act of ultimate human heroism. For the God being of many world religions speaks, "Be still and know that I am." For there is an undeniably immutable, omnipresent essence infusing all of life with hylozoic quantum consciousness and hence substantiality. And as the mystics of the East believe, consciousness is the ground of all being. And indeed, perhaps consciousness itself is being, is life, the light of that dark matter theorized by cosmologists and physicists, microcosmically dominating and infusing perhaps the ultimate mind stuff of all that is. But of course, as many intuit, God is a concept we have yet to come to fully comprehend, although there are some absolutes of which we can be certain, nevertheless. For indeed, one of the main conundrums of human society is how we are so often socially engineered to separate thought from feeling or intuition. For the human entity needs fluidity of ontological integration, not the kind of militaristic, crude dichotomization we often inflict, in order to both survive and to efficiently thrive, both from within and without. Moreover, we can easily become so caught up within this strict survivalist mode that we miss out on the natural abundance of joy that can be gleaned from even the most arcane of moments and happenstance. And although an embrace of true inward and outward freedom does entail weighty responsibility, it is also at the root of our greatest triumphs and ecstasies. And paradoxically so, the source of true and lasting transcendence can be foraged only from the high plains of simplicity and virtue. And although a higher plane of consciousness might not be able to be breached with homeostatic finality while we inhabit this current incarnation, a synthesis of the age-old epic battle between survival versus thrivance can indeed be obtained for long enough periods during which we can accomplish our noblest goals, both individually and collectively. For we all must continue to weigh the costs of this life so rife with paradox and seeming disorder and indignity, and often weigh them in very heavily indeed. But what the physical sciences reveal to us about such discontinuity is that there is also a reverse kind of entropy at work as well within that universe governed by laws more metaphysical. For underlying it all, we sense an immaculate order and perfection of design. And indeed, as many world religions and branches of spiritual discipline practice intuit, it is only when we attempt to resist the natural ebb and tide of all things as they were created that we do more harm than good to ourselves, others, and our earth. In continuum, as is also naturally built into our psychological human design, we resist the wisdom of the inherent perfection and yet constant transformation in and of all things, not so much because we fear that of our own evolving, but because we fear that of our own eventual dissolving into the so-called void or unknown. For indeed, change is loss, and is experienced by every human entity in painful and often frightening ways. Hence our resistance to all that is free and natural. Yet I believe that our meta-physiognomy, if you will, is structured in such a way that we each undergo metamorphosis within the chrysalis of our soul, whether or not we resist or acknowledge it. We move forward and yet contain the memory of our total journey up to the point of our ponderance upon our life's travails, thus often confusing reflection with irksome digression. Yet we are, I believe, genetically programmed to dwell in states of continual growth and edification as we go about even the most seemingly mundane of daily tasks. For we, as a species, were not created merely to procreate or to be industrious in other venues of worldly endeavor, but were, I believe, also created for the purpose of intellectual and spiritual evolution. Indeed, in the Judaist tradition, we see this principle of the co-edification of both intellect and spirit at its peak of elegant synthesis and dynamism. And perhaps what Judeo-Christianity deems evil is merely that force which seeks to keep individuals blinded to each their own potential and actualization. In finale, the message most parallel between all major world religions is one of expediency and new universalism, which recognizes an inherent wisdom that we are already saved in the here and now. Redemption is not something which need be striven for, inasmuch as it is a state of grace already available to us in every moment. Thus, again, how we delegate our thoughts, feelings, and actions, otherwise known as freedom and responsibility of choice, is paramount. And if we choose to so desperately cling to idols long ago since crumbled and fallen, we will not be able to fully grasp and hold on to the true and everlasting gifts of the Spirit, which God offers to us here and now, in every precious breath of thought, feeling, and movement, inward and outward. For we are all, in this very moment, redeemed by the inexhaustible, eminent, and unconditional love of that of our Creator God. And although, due to the unseen dark principalities which we will continue to battle each within ourselves and coming from others of our human kin, we can keep refining our immortal souls in the fine art of letting go to hold on. For the one true and living God does not base our worth or our worthiness upon myopic and demoralizing human concepts of good or bad, or saved or damned. For God is eternal and ever immanent over anything our finite human intellects can conjure for our own amusement, edification, or demise. We all deserve to be honored within our humanity, as is. For this human process is, for each and every one of us, nothing less than a sacred ritual of unfolding. And although the implication and explication of each our own actualization might proceed with reticence and even a certain amount of stealth, when at last we are reborn unto eternality, we will have been granted a visage and ontology beyond anything we ever could have envisaged.